Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, back with another video for the new Boston. Now, we've already looked at selecting data from our database, and we did this using the code here. If you haven't already looked at the previous tutorial that explains this code, and you're not comfortable looking at this code and understanding what it does, I suggest you go back and view that tutorial, as well as if you haven't looked at the general tutorial on queries and using MySQL, then I recommend you view them as well. Now, what we've done here is we've selected a specific field names from this table called food, where unhealthy equals U and calories equals 700. So we've been quite specific, and in this case we've only retrieved one value. That's the ice cream value here with the ID of 4. Now what we want to do is be able to take user input in order to return specific values. So let's say I want the user to be able to specify if they want a list of unhealthy food or healthy food, or maybe if they want to specify a maximum or minimum calorie amount. But for now we're just going to go for the unhealthy healthy food option, and then the rest of that will be self-explanatory for your own purposes. So we're going to keep the code we've already got here. Let's just tidy this up a bit so it's a bit more combined. In fact, we'll separate it just so it's easier to view. Okay, so what we now want to do is take user input. So we want to come down here, or in fact up to the top we could do. Let's just cut off this require here and reopen a tag there for the rest of the PHP, and we can put our HTML in here. Now I'm going to create a form, and that's going to have action of the page that we're on at the moment, and the method is going to be get, just so we can see what's going on in the URL bar at the top, because eventually what we're going to be aiming for is something like we're on the index.php. We want to aim for something like UH equals U for unhealthy or H for healthy. So we're using this get variable here to specify a value. So what we want to do is we want to create a field, and I'm going to say I'm going to create a select field, and this is going to be called UH, and inside we're going to have our options. So we need option, we're going to have a first option, and we're going to have a second option, and these options are unhealthy or healthy, if I can spell it correctly. So option value equals we'll just say U, and option value equals H. So now let's create a submit button. We'll go down a couple of lines and say input type equals submit, and the value of that can just be submit, so that's what's being displayed to the user. And we'll add something that's a bit more user friendly, so choose a food type, I guess that would be fine. Okay, so let's first of all okay, we'll leave that for now. So let's press F5, choose a food type, unhealthy or healthy. Now ignore this for now, because in the PHP code we've got a static query which we've predefined, so ignore this for now. But eventually what our form will do is it will produce a list of foods depending on what the user selects here. So now what we're doing is, as well as creating our query, we're allowing the user to specify things that they want to return. So this is really useful in sort of everyday applications. So I'm going to click on unhealthy and click submit, and you can see that up here we've got UH equals U. And here we can say healthy, click submit, UH equals H. So we're processing get data through to the URL, and then we can process that in our query. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is inside our PHP here, we need to check if these values have been submitted. So I'm going to say if is set $_get UH, then proceed with all of this code here, and then what we can do is indent everything we've already got inside just so it looks a lot nicer. So indent that. So if is set get UH, and not empty $_get UH. Now what we can do is we can say UH equals $_get UH. Now let's kill the script there and echo this out, so we know we're basically testing for this being submitted. So we'll refresh the page back to index.php. Okay, so we've got nothing there now because we've killed the page. Choose a food type, unhealthy or healthy. So let's select unhealthy first, and we should be submitted a U here for unhealthy. And now healthy, submit, and we've got an H there. Okay, so now what we can do is we can insert this value that's selected into our query to allow the query to become more dynamic and select the food type, either whether unhealthy or healthy, depending on the user's input. Now, before we start this, there is a problem that we do have here, and we have a potential for SQL injection. And I have a video on SQL injection in this for the series for the new Boston. So have a look at that video before you run anything like this on a live web server, because you'll tend to find that queries can be modified using data. So for example, if I was submitting this H value here is eventually going to go into a query. So I could change this to something, it wouldn't be select star, but just for an example, I could change that so we can input different things into our query. If that doesn't make sense now, it will do in a moment. So input equals H. That's a good point actually. Let's also make this str, oh no, it'd be this str to lower, so we're always converting this to lowercase in case people try to modify the URL and everything like that.